Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Julianne and I am doing a TBR 0 project. This is month 18's recap, so if you are new here, maybe check out a few of my earlier videos. There's one explaining the rules for this project and why I'm doing it, and that might be very useful background information for you to have, even if you don't want to watch all of my previous month's recaps and vlogs. So it was my ambition when I started this whole process, this TBR 0 project, that I would vlog every month, but life has just got in the way, and so I'm taking a little break from vlogging and I'm just doing recaps for a few months, and I'm hoping once my life is a little bit more under control and I have more time, then I will get back to vlogging. But for now, it's recaps all the way down. I did in fact think, oh yeah, it's a Christmas, this is a great month to vlog, there's lots of cool visuals, you know, I can sit in front of the Christmas tree while I do updates and things like that, and then it didn't happen. I filmed one update and it's a shame that I did no more. I just decided to bin it because I just couldn't make it work. Like, it's not a vlog if it's just 2 updates. So yeah, I binned it. I'm doing a recap instead. That's how it is. So on with the project. So at the end of November, if you've watched my November video, you'll know that I was feeling a bit down about how things went in November. I did not read a single TBR book in November, month 17. It was not good. I was so out of sync with my one TBR book to one non-TBR book kind of reward scheme. I just kind of finished and I was like, right, we've got to turn this around. And the good news is that I did. I read a lot of TBR books in December, and I'm really, really pleased with it. A lot of them are quite short, as you will see, but I read them nonetheless. So the first one I read was The Year of Nothing by Emma Gannon. So this is the first of 4, I think, little books that I got from the Pound Project, who is the company that published them. And they are these very, very beautiful little books, and they always come in a slipcase. There's sometimes like a bonus, like prints or something. I think I took the prints that were in this box and I put them in my little prints folder. I have a little prints folder around here somewhere that I got in an Illuma crate. To keep them nice, so that eventually when I have less books and I can finally sort this room out and decorate it, I can put them up on the wall and it'll be very lovely. But yeah, anyway, I got these because I've been following Emma Gannon for years and years and years, and these books are all about a sabbatical that she took from her work as a kind of writer last year or the year before. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I was really, really interested in this topic, and I thought that the Pound Project was a really interesting publishing company. Basically, they do like short runs, so they open for orders for a limited period of time, and then after that the book's out of print. They usually bring back like the year's books in December for Christmas ordering, but that's it basically. That's how it works. So it's sort of like you have 2 opportunities to get the book, and then after that it's done. And I think this has worked out really well for some of the authors. Like, they've gone on to then sell the books again to other publishing companies, like bigger publishing houses and things like that. So yeah, it's really, really interesting, and I really, really enjoyed reading these little books. They were a great way to sort of spend an afternoon and reflect on my own feelings about work and other projects and burnout and things like that. You know, I have really struggled physically and mentally over the last couple of years because I've been ill, and it's been very, very difficult for me to do a lot of the things that brought joy into my life, like writing and socializing, and even making as many videos on this channel as I would like to do. I found this really, really quite relatable and interesting. Yeah, loved it. Great. Then I decided that this was a really efficient way to get my numbers back to equal. So I went on to read Under Orion from the Pound Project, and these are with Amber Fossey. Oh, and so this one came with a patch that says "Choose Anarchy" and has a well. So Amber Fossey is also known as Zeppelin Moon on Instagram, and is known for doing these kind of beautiful illustrations of animals and accompanying them with text, which is witty and sometimes like really heartwarming and inspirational, at other times very like critical and funny and sardonic. And I really, really, really love her work. I think one of these may have been published before, and then they've kind of added on the others. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I need to think of somewhere to put this patch because it's so good. It's a little bit difficult, tricky to slip things back into slipcovers. I've always found this. It's not something that comes naturally to me, but they're really nice. I kind of feel like I want to like just put the books like face out though. That's the only thing, because I can't really tell from looking at the slipcovers like exactly which books they are. They are all different colours, so that's helpful. Then the last one I got from the Pound Project and read sequentially one afternoon on the sofa was Gemma Correll's Overthinker, which is sort of like little sketchbooks. Gemma Correll is also on Instagram if you want to check out her work, and yeah, I've admired it for quite a while, so it was really nice to get these, and I really enjoyed them. And this one came with a badge that says Overthinking World Champion, which I have just knocked off. I should take it off anyway because it doesn't really fit on the bookshelf. I need to hear it, sorry, like here so you can see it, because I have autofocus lock on. The only thing is, I don't know why they gave these out to so many people when clearly I am the Overthinking World Champion. Then I read Brave New Girl by Louisa Luna. I don't have it anymore because I finished it quite early on in the month, and I decided to give it away when I was giving away some other books. I think I started this right after I finished Small Things Like These last month. I think I read Small Things Like These on the way down on the train to see my sister, and then I started reading Brave New Girl on the way back up, and I didn't finish it. So I finished it in early December and then gave it away after that. This one was sort of like an interesting bit of YA history. So it was published in 2001 by MTV Books, who also published The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and it's kind of a similar vibe. It's about a 14-year-old girl called Doreen who is an outcast at school. She has like one friend who's also a bit of an outcast, and she tries to kind of like claim her identity and be braver and kind of work out what she is, but in a very chaotic way. There's some abuse that goes on in this book, which you might find difficult to read, so just putting that out there. But yeah, I could see why MTV Books published it, because it was very much that kind of like kind of troubled teen who nobody notices kind of vibe. Then I read, continuing on with short things, Many Hands Make a Quilt, Short Histories of Radical Quilting by Jess Bailey of Public Library Quilts. So I think I'd heard about this ages ago. I follow Public Library Quilts on Instagram, and yeah, I just never got around to buying it until I was in a museum shop, and it was there, so I got it. I think I got it in a museum shop in Edinburgh, actually. I was buying something else, so I kind of was like, in for a penny and for a pound. I'm buying one book, I'll buy two. Logic. But yeah, I'm glad I bought it. It was really, really, really interesting. Lots of stories about activists and like community building quilts. Really, really fascinating stories in here. Mostly about people in America. But super, super interesting regardless of which side of the pond and which country you are in. So the next book I read was Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, the new one. I kind of hurried to read this because I was going to a book club meeting, not for Intermezzo, for Small Things Like These, but I wanted to read Intermezzo beforehand anyway, just in case people discussed it, because it had been the previous book club meeting's pick and I couldn't go to that one, so I didn't read it in time for that meeting. But I thought I'll read it in time for the Small Things Like These one, so if people talk about it, I am not spoiled. I think a couple of people mentioned it, but didn't really talk about it in depth, so it was okay, because I had not actually finished it by that point. I think I finished it a couple of days later, but I was almost through. Annoyingly, I borrowed the audiobook from the library, and then, like, didn't manage to finish it. But then thankfully I had a hold come in on the ebook, so I finished it on the ebook after starting it in audio. I have listened to every other Sally Rooney book in audiobook. I'd never read one like as ebook before, and like I deliberately wanted to listen to the audiobook again because I know she doesn't use speech marks, and I thought, like, if I'm going to be annoyed about this, I'll be annoyed about it in the ebook. I won't be annoyed about it in the audiobook. It's fine. You can tell when people are doing dialogue in audiobook quite easily. So, so yeah, that was my logic. Anyway, Intermezzo, I really, really enjoyed it. I found it really, really compelling and really, really interesting. I don't know if I liked it as much as Beautiful World, Where Are You? But then in retrospect, maybe I didn't like Beautiful World, Where Are You? As much as I thought I did at the time. I came away from it and I thought, yeah, this is my favourite Sally Rooney. I like this so much better than her earlier books. But now I remember almost nothing about it. Like, I don't remember it as vividly as Normal People or Conversations with Friends. And I feel like Intermezzo is sticking in my head better, so maybe my favourite is Intermezzo. Yeah. I think I really enjoyed that it was about siblings and about this relationship between two brothers who, one is a fair bit older than the other, and after the death of their father, they're sort of struggling to kind of reintegrate the kind of connection with each other without him being there as a sort of go-between. And also they have different opinions about their parents. They've had different political opinions in the past and things like that. They have ideas of each other which aren't necessarily completely forced, but they don't match up with each person's idea of themselves. And it's like, I think it's a lot about like how you integrate your idea of yourself with other people's ideas of you. Yeah. On top of the whole brotherhood thing and what it means to be, what it means to care about people, even if you find them difficult to care about at times. Then I finished reading Best Text Ever, which I think I was reading on ebook for quite a long time. I was kind of dragging it out because it was count as a non-TBR book, and I didn't want to accrue any more non-TBR books. But it was a kind of like really nice, cozy fantasy romance. There were so many lovely fantasy details in here that I really, really enjoyed. I loved that the main character is like a magical baker, and that her parents live in this house which is kind of alive and magical. Just lots of lovely details there. Then I read, this is a bigger book, but like not actually all that time consuming to read because there's a lot of illustrations. Ways to Walk in London, which is by Alice Stevenson. I thought I'd say that as it's kind of curly font. I don't know how well it's going to show up on screen. Hidden Places and New Perspectives is the subtitle. So this is basically a book about the author taking walks in different parts of London, describing what she sees and drawing different illustrations to go alongside it. It can be sometimes really quite abstract, but they're very beautiful. And there's like clearly like kind of like elements of the places that she visits. So this is the Canary Wharf one, so you can see like the tower block influence. And sometimes there are like visual elements from the different places that she incorporates in as well. Like here we have some bricks on a building and things like that. But yeah, it was a really fun little book to read, and I got lots of ideas for walks that I want to do, and I've like added several more to my 40 before 40 list, so that was really cool too. Then I read Sensory, A Life on the Spectrum, which is an autistic comics anthology edited by Bex Ollerton. I have meant to pick this up for absolutely ages. I completely forgot to support the original Kickstarter. And then I have seen Bex Ollerton at multiple events and failed to pick this up. I actually meant to pick this up at MCM London, but Bex wasn't there. At the time when I was doing my walk around of the Artists Alley, whatever it's called at MCM, I can't remember. But yeah, did not get hold of that. So I had to buy it at Full Bubble and then take it home. All the way from Full Bubble when I could have picked it up at MCM, which was much nearer to me and I had less stuff to carry. But, you know, I got it in the end and that was the main thing. And I really, really enjoyed this. So this is a mixture of, like, kind of personal reflective stories and also, like, tips and advice from different autistic creators. It's really good. I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful work. Lots of different artistic styles as well. There's some, like, very cartoony stuff. There's some stuff that's a bit more abstract. like, and there's some that kind of like blends the two like this. Yeah, and it's just great to like discover a lot of new artists and creators. And that one was for my actual TBR because I bought it. The next one was not. This is Dungeon Fun. This is a really cute book about a little girl who's grown up at the bottom of a moat with like some troll creatures, and she sets out to like save them all, and yeah, there's lots of fun like silly monster stuff that happens in here, and I really enjoyed it. But this was off of Nick's bookshelf. This is a book that he bought at Full Bubble. I think he said he bought this on ebook, but liked it so much he decided to get the hard copy. So if that isn't a recommendation, what is? Then I read Under the Mistletoe with You, which isn't actually true. I read Make You Mine This Christmas, but that was a reread, so it doesn't count. Did I ever make the conscious decision that rereads don't count against either number? No. But they don't. I'm making that rule now. Rereads don't count against either number, but I hardly ever do them, so there we go. Anyway, I wanted to reread Make You Mine This Christmas just because I thought I would, because I really enjoyed it. And then I read Under the Mistletoe with You. So both of them by Lizzie Huxley-Jones. The first one is a story of fake dating, and the one half of the fake dating for that book is the main protagonist of this book. So it's about Christopher, who since the first book has moved to open a bakery in a small village in Wales, and he's supposed to be coming home for Christmas to hang out with everybody from the first book, but he gets snowed in. And then his Airbnb guest, who was supposed to be staying in his flat while he wasn't there to help make him some money, shows up. And it turns out that he is his like idol man, his heartthrob, Christmas movie star who he has loved for ages and is in all his comfort movies, and yeah, romance happened. What I really loved about this was the cozy community vibes. They don't just sort of stay in and hide all the time. They go out into the community and help everybody cope with being snowed in, and it was just such a lovely story and atmosphere. And yeah, I think I might even love it more, Make You Mine This Christmas. And I love that book. It's just the chaos of it all is wonderful, but I think I just loved the community vibes of this so extremely much. This one may actually be my favourite. The next book I read was A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. I really enjoyed this. It took me quite a long time to read it. I think I started it a couple of months ago, and because it was a hardback, when I was going through phases of being out and about and really busy, I didn't want to take it with me because I didn't want to bash it up. So yeah, that didn't help. And then there was just me getting distracted and wanting to read all of these other things. But I did eventually get like to the last like 3/4, and then by then I was just so hooked onto the plot, and the romance has really gotten going. So this, as you might be able to guess from the title, has got a romance, but it doesn't kick in quite later on, because I think the main characters like self-esteem and denial, and also their kind of different circumstances kind of conspire to stop her from considering that this romance is even an option. So it's about a young woman who is a researcher into folklore, in this world where magic is real, but it seems to mostly be to do with magical creatures. Humans have some ability to sort of manipulate it, but not everyone. So the main character's background is sort of like inspired, I think, by Jewish people, and her people are supposedly not able to manipulate magic, and so she, although she has been born with this ability, she pretends she doesn't have it, and she basically grew up in this kind of enclosed community, and she is really she really wants to gain power and influence so that she can help herself, but also help her people who are trapped in this situation that's not of their own making, and that they can't get out of. So when the king is sponsoring this big expedition to go look for this source of magic that he wants to be able to control. She desperately wants to be included, and her mentor is running the project. So when she is selected to be second in command, she is surprised. Everybody is surprised, but we feel like it's kind of inevitable because she's good at her job and her mentor is a very sensible person. However, not long into the journey, her mentor is murdered. She obviously suspects everybody else on the boat who's taking part in this expedition, but she can't really realistically find out on her own. And she realises she has to start trusting Sylvia, her long-time academic rival. And Sylvia is somebody she does trust in the end, because Sylvia is just such an inherently good person. So there's this lovely, like, it's a romance and they're clearly into each other, but also this tension of her not wanting to like Sylvia. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and also the kind of the expedition across their country and visiting these different places to try and find this source of magic was really interesting. But what I think I liked the most about this was this kind of political backdrop. So there's this king, but his kind of control over everything is very tentative. His kingdom was previously several different nations, and people have their differing opinions, shall we say, on whether they should be one country or not, and whether he is a good king. And all of this stuff was kind of in the backdrop of it and made it feel really, really rich and interesting. And then the last book I read in month 18, December, the last book I read in 2024 was Poem for the Day One. So I acquired this actually a few years ago, I think. I picked it up in a local book swap thing. I thought this would be great for me to read in the future to kind of broaden my knowledge of poetry. And so this year I decided I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to do Poem for the Day One. And so I did. And what was really fun about it was that at the end I had completed another TBR book by default. I would say most days I read 1 or 2 poems, because I had to obviously catch up when I didn't read one. There were a few periods where for a few weeks at a time I forgot and didn't read it, but generally I was pretty good about working my way through this. I will say that I don't think it broadened my knowledge of poetry as much as I wanted it to, because there were so many repeats. I thought with a book like this, which is 365 poems, 366 actually, it's got a leap year one. And if I remember correctly, last year was a leap year, so it was quite fun to get to read the leap year poem on the leap day. But yeah, it has a lot of repeats, and there's a lot of Wordsworth and Yeats and Blake, a lot of Blake. And I like Blake. I don't like Jerusalem. But I like Blake. And yeah, it just seemed a bit samey. I was like, but there's so many poets in the world, so many poets, and it's just mostly dead English guys. So this book was published in 2001, although it says the compilation copyright is 1994, which perhaps explains why it's so dated. I feel if you were going to do a Poem for the Day compilation now, you would not have so many dead English guys as this book contains. You would go for a more diverse range of poets, or at least I'd like to think so. I think it feels even more dated because there are not even that many women in it, you know? Nowadays you'd expect there to be a good gender balance as the bare minimum, let alone representation of poets in different countries and things like that. So yeah, that was not great. I didn't love the demographic similarity of a lot of the poets featured in this book, and also the repetition of poets being featured multiple times, many times. But what I did really appreciate about it is that every page has a sort of biographical note, depending on who the author is and how much has been explained about them elsewhere in the book. So this is a poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and this sort of tells the story of her life and how she fell in love with Robert Browning, and how they got married, and the book also has at the top next to the date, on this day, information about poets. But yeah, sometimes it's interesting, this particular poet who for some reason isn't featured in this book died on this day, and here's a little biographical note about them, and I'm intrigued, and then I'm like, well, where are they in this book? Maybe you could have put them in this book, but no. And other times it is just like born, died, married in some cases, and it's not as exciting as it might have been. Like, I feel like they could have just been a bit more sparing with some of these and not just listed a bunch of people. But yeah, there we go. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I'm really hoping I pass this on to somebody else. I'm going to ask at my book club and see if anybody wants this, because I think it'd be really fun for someone else to read through it. But if you are reading this, I'd recommend like reading some other poets as well, because it is a lot of dead Englishmen. No offense to dead Englishmen, thought they can take offense because they're dead. But there's a lot of them in this book, and I was just like, where are all the wonderful poets from all over the world that I hear so much about, you know? I feel like they should be in here. Anyway, there is a poem for the day too, so I'm wondering if there's more of that. And I also don't know how long the Poem for the Day series went on, whether there was a 3 and 4. I'm pretty sure there's a 2. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but yeah, there we go. If I see it in a charity shop or something, I might pick it up and do this again, because it was fun, despite the lack of diversity. But I would prefer more diverse versions. If anybody knows about something similar that's more recent, please do let me know. Now, on to the bit I'm sure you've been waiting for, with bated breath, the tally. The tally. Here we go. I'm gonna do the TBR books at the end because I'm so proud and so pleased. So I read 1 comic borrowed from Nick, 1 book from NetGalley, and 1 library audiobook. But I read a whopping 9 TBR books this month. I am so pleased, so proud. I am now into the next month, and I can tell you that I have managed, with just a couple more books, to get back to be equal in my balance between TBR books and non-TBR books, and long may it last. I'm so relieved. I felt like I was in such a big hole. Like, I just really dug myself a hole by reading no TBR books in the previous month. I just thought, am I ever going to get out of this? Am I just going to now be behind for like the whole project? But I put in the effort, I did the time, I read lots of short books and got my way out of it. So there we are. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought. If there's any books you would recommend to me based on your experience and my reading taste, you know. They might already be on my shelves, so I might read them. And of course, as always, if you are doing a TBR0 project, and however you are documenting it or not, whether you have a YouTube channel or you're posting about it on social media, or if you just want to tell me about it in the comments, please let me know. You'll see me again soon. Bye!